Hey, welcome to episode 19 of the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm Laura Ferry, your host. Welcome. Last week we talked about getting comfortable in our bodies, tapping into our sensuality and taking charge of ourselves. And that was a really cool episode. And I got a lot of great feedback about it. There are a lot more women out there that have suffered trauma that hasn't been addressed, and I think that can be very triggering when you're trying to it's almost like a block when you're trying to move forward in your life and be comfortable with your partner and yourself and all of that. And a lot of times it's the things that we need to deal with, to move forward. So we'll be diving into that subject a lot deeper, and I'm looking forward to that. And please keep sending me your questions and comments because I love hearing from you, and I like to know, where you're at and what's going on. So things look a little different, and our lives are in a constant stage of transition, and mine is no different. And I truly believe that the universe puts us where we need to be. Today, I had lunch with my new assistant that is helping me with all things social media and brand and marketing, and it's getting really exciting. And over the weekend, I spent a considerable amount of time with Matt from Hustle Productions, and we'll be working on some really great projects together and some new major offerings that can come, right to you. And so if you fit that bill, stay tuned, check the website often, and listen to the podcast so that you can tune in and figure out what's going on and what you'd like to partake in. But back to our transition. Transition and change can be very nerve-wracking. And it's the times that we step out of our comfort zone that we grow the most. And it's so uncomfortable. And oftentimes we'll push that away and stay in this miserable or just comfortable place. Not necessarily miserable, but knowing that there's more out there. And without doing some digging and discovery, just kind of staying in that safe space. But I implore you to keep thinking about what you want things to be like. This is sort of on topic, off topic, but as I was sitting with Kayla at lunch, we're talking about entrepreneurship and building a business and going through all the different phases. And no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter what kind of job you're in, no matter where you are, like if there's a desire to think and do better and that you want a different something to change, maybe it's not major, maybe it's little, but the first thing that I always tell my coaching clients is to think about what you want your day to look like. And I am facing a lot of change right now. Again, a new layer of change, letting go of some of things that I've been working on, with various clients and things like that. And letting go of that can be scary, but knowing that once I let go, that makes so much more space for all of the other stuff. And I've been thinking about my day and what I want it to look like and what time do I want to wake up? Do I want to work out in the morning? Do I want to meditate in the morning? Am I having an early morning meeting or whatever? So when you're thinking about that more that you might want, start with your morning. Do you want to wake up early? Do you want to go to the gym? Do you want to spend the morning with your children? Do you want to work from home? Do you want to drive to an office? All of those simple things, all of those tiny daily routines that you have, and how much either you enjoy them or you don't enjoy them, or if you're sitting in traffic for an hour every morning on your way to work and I don't want to start my morning like that, and I did that for a long time. That's a starting point. So knowing that, I don't want to commute anymore. And you start thinking about this because we stay in this contemplation stage for change for a long time. And it could be years before anything actually takes shape. But if you don't start thinking about it, you're going to be in that same place years later. So I encourage you to think about the changes that you want, to take place in your life. So obviously here, I've been doing this podcast with Julie from the beginning for the last 18 weeks. And, change is inevitable. And I'm really grateful for every step of this journey, even the ugly, crappy ones, even, the ones where it was hard to get up in the morning. But right now, things are going so well, and I'm so grateful to be sticking with my own authenticity and to be able to bring this podcast to you and speak from an authentic place, raw, real feelings, life experience, and knowledge that I've gained along the way. And again, transition and change can be tricky to navigate, but it's essential for growth. And if we don't embrace those changes, we're just working against them. So, we'll be sitting in this place of being stuck, and we don't want to be stuck too long. So I'm grateful for each step, the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing. I've had an amazing time doing this podcast with Julie, but I'm really excited about the potential that I have going forward to bring you more good information and have you meet lots of different people and learn from all aspects of life and business. And if you're new here, or if you've been watching for a while and don't know, the whole reason this started was I started a blog about 8 years ago. It was a major shakeup in my life, probably the biggest one as an adult. And, the first few episodes, I was sort of repeating where that came from. And it was about 8 years ago, and it was following the birth of my youngest daughter. I was married at the time, my daughter Evelyn. And then the company that I was working for at the time was being acquired. So I had a job that I loved that was going through this big acquisition. And I had just had a baby. It literally was announced the day I got back to work from maternity leave. And it turned into a very different place very quickly. And it was a little disheartening. And at the time, I definitely 100% without a doubt did not have the knowledge that I have now, clearly, right? What is that saying? If we knew then what we know now, we would have done things a little bit differently, or maybe I would have let go a little bit more. But all of those experiences brought me to now. So I was going through that, and then my mother passed away very suddenly. At the time, my husband and I also had major financial struggles from, maternity leave and, just our family growing and things changing. And all of those things combined just sort of sent me to a tailspin where I needed to just reset and focus. And I left that job and I went off on my own. And that's when I started my consulting business. And I was doing some consulting for some different companies. I live in northern New Jersey. I would travel to New York City once a week. And I had this amazing romance with New York City for a while. And it was really cool because I only had to go in once a week. So if I had to do it every day, I think that would be a different story. But I really, really enjoyed that time, and I felt very independent. Having three small children, as a mom, you can feel very, I don't want to say tied down, just very resentful of your responsibilities sometimes. And the adventure was what was so attractive to it, about it. So the months after my mom passed away, I spent just contemplating. I knew I wasn't in a happy space. I hadn't been happy in a long time, both in my marriage and just growing resentful of the financial position that we were in, of the responsibilities that I had. I think I was, gosh, I'd have to do the math. I think it was about 34 or 35 at the time. And the amount of responsibility that a mom takes on, and I'm not dissing you guys at all whatsoever, but the amount of responsibility that a mom takes on, regardless of whether she's working or not, is immense. And, I'm sure there are great guys out there that take on that responsibility as well. But my situation was a little bit different. And I was so tired of making decisions, and I was so tired of being in charge of everything. I felt out of control. And I didn't feel like I had control over anything, although we don't, but I was still steering the ship, if you will. So oftentimes I felt like I was on autopilot and I didn't really know who I was anymore. And again, just kind of resentful of all that responsibility. And I know, I'm a grown up and I have responsibility and I needed that. But little did I know how much really healing I needed, and what would lie ahead in the years to come in that department. And the whole thing is, so when all of this happened, it was May 5th, 2016. I wrote my first blog post and posted it. And prior to that, I had come up with, the domain name and all of that. And, with the help of, my husband, we were brainstorming and stuff, and he thought it was a cool idea. And so May 5th, 2016, I wrote and published my first blog post on myinnerstruggle.com. And it was really just the reset that I needed. And I never knew where that blog would take me. And I knew I've said it before, and I'm not sure that people fully can appreciate or understand that, because it wasn't just about being a mom. It was finding myself again after not really knowing myself ever, maybe. And it wasn't until, fast forward all these years, but it wasn't until 2023 that I suffered so much loss that I actually made that connection, and it made so much more sense. And little did I know at the time, but when my mom passed away, it was really a release for me. And now I've put it all together. And I've been working on a book for a long time, and it's actually coming to fruition. And that is my focus for the next couple weeks as I move forward into the next phase. I've roughly 20,000 words. And I've had beta readers read it and give me good feedback on the flow and if it makes sense. And everybody has said the same thing, is that they just want more. So I'm going to give them more. And I'm really excited about that. It's nerve-wracking at first when I sent that to my beta readers, just knowing that it was out there. I've only shared with one person all of those details, and he held that in his hands. And until I wrote them in the book, there was no one else that knew that. And so when I first sent this out to those, a couple of handfuls of beta readers, it was really anxiety provoking, just knowing that someone else is reading all of this history on me. But then the feedback that I received from it and the bravery comments and all of that just felt like really good. And it was such a healing process, and it feels amazing. So if you've ever contemplated sharing your story, I would strongly encourage you to do so. It's been a great tool for me in the healing process, and being able to, the whole point was that if I could help one person feel better and feel not alone about where they are in their journey, then I won. So when I started the blog, it was kind of about, getting healthy, more or less. But it became so much more. It became about, making meals for toddlers and dealing with, going to work full time and having 3 kids and driving here and there and everywhere, for years, and, dealing with your self-esteem and growing confidence and stepping into yourself as a person. And it's evolved to all of these things. And since then, I've moved on and gotten divorced. And I'll talk about dating and boyfriends and sex and dating apps and becoming a coach and leaving jobs and losing relationships and all of that stuff. And so I'm feeling so empowered the further I go, and it feels fucking amazing. I've never felt more confident in my life than I have in the last 6 months, I'd say. Because prior to that, it was still like another phase of transition. And the more we dig into ourselves, the more we discover, and asking your why all the time is super important, and it's a crucial step in growth. And so my hope to bring the podcast to you is that it's kind of the same as like what I'm writing in the blog, and there's a lot more we can say in a shorter amount of time. And there are certain people that appeal to reading a blog or a book, and there are certain people that appeal to like listening to a podcast or watching it on YouTube. So um, I'm really excited about helping other people with their own personal growth. And if I can plant a seed, even if we have a few sentences together, and I ask you a couple questions, and that leaves you to ponder for the rest of the day or share that with a friend, then I did my job, because you're that little percentage better and stepping in the right direction, questioning, why you're triggered by certain things, or why you're walking around so angry. And that's a whole other podcast in itself. But learning your triggers and becoming to recognize them, and then finally practicing the pause and working through them, um, like helps better all of the relationships around you, not just your romantic ones, your friendships, the relationships with your kids. I'm at the point now, like my kids and I have been like this unit. When I was married, I felt like when my ex-husband would go away, we would have this like great time. And we had a great time with him too, but I think I was in such a place that I needed to feel independent or not have to rely on someone, because I was felt like I was let down a little bit. And that's a very, very general statement, but my everything, the energy around me was different when he would go away on business. And so the kids and I would dance in the kitchen. That's what we started with, and the energy was just so much different. And now, 5 years later that I've been on my own, we have that energy all the time, and I'm such a happier person. And it had nothing to do with him. It was me, like the way I felt inside myself, and my lack of confidence. And I share that with you, with an open heart, because I get it, and I have friends that feel it, and I see it, and we talk about it. And I just have this much more close-knit relationship with my kids. And I owe it all to figuring out who I was and what I needed. And that's irreplaceable. So this week, obviously, since things are transitioning, and I'm moving on with the podcast, and have some really, really exciting things going on. I want to talk about transformation and guiding you through that, and those parts that we have to address within ourselves. And it requires a lot of uncomfortable conversations and situations. And just being a business owner, and it's just interesting about like what different avenues that you can take, and all of the people that I'm meeting networking, and it's just so interesting. And my consulting clients as well, because I do business consulting. And I spent a few hours at the park the other day with a new friend of mine that I've met through networking. And I greatly respect what she does and her opinions. And we're kind of in the same space, but not in the same space. And she is a coach of sorts, but does business consulting. And she prides herself on thought leadership. And she's just very cool. And I really enjoy her, Katie. And I have great respect for her. And it was so funny because I met her, and she's one of the only other people I know, a woman that is a solopreneur, right? And she doesn't have children, but that's okay. That doesn't change anything. But she has the right thought process and mindset, and we just mesh really well. And sometimes it's really hard when you don't have a partner to bounce those things off of. And I often wonder what it would be like had I had a partner now in my life as I'm digging in so deep in my business and growing this lifestyle and media company and doing great things and doing good work every day and delivering a message that is truly important to me and my heart and everything that I believe and stand for. Where would I be? And sometimes not everyone understands, even, my friends or my family don't understand what the grind is like every single day. And it's not that I'm not grateful for that grind, because I am, and I live and breathe for it. And it's so fucking excited. But sometimes it gets overwhelming, that I don't have a single person to bounce those ideas off of. So that can be tough. And so we're talking about this, and we did this 4 mile walk as we're having a walking meeting and at this park nearby. And she turned to me and said, "Where are all the other people like us?" And I said, "I've been asking myself that question for a really long time." And it reminds me of an old friend of mine that I had at the last company that I worked for. And he, I deem it, I've always worked in the IT and internet industry, and around a lot of men that were, for lack of anything better to say, nerds. And I was navigating nerds and understanding them kind of became a forte of mine. And he had said that when, I guess in high school, when he met his friends, it was like he finally found his tribe and how good that felt. And I thought about that in that moment when she said that to me, because I've been thinking about that whole time, is we kind of found each other. And it's so fucking cool, because when you meet other entrepreneurs that are of the same mindset, because that's a big difference. There's a lot of small business owners that like to talk a big talk, but are they actually positive, and have a great mindset towards life and not cynical or just looking at the dollar. And I felt just like he had described. He finally found his tribe, his people, and he was so excited about it. And building a business can often feel like a slog when you're buried in the everyday tasks of business building, not the reason that you started what it is that you're doing, right? I think there's some sort of credit card commercial, or I think it's an Indeed commercial, and the woman, I saw it last night and I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And she's running this ocean kayaking business or something like that, in this like 30-second commercial, and how she needs employees because she doesn't want to be doing the bookkeeping or whatever it is. And so it's a commercial for Indeed, but it's like, I don't want to be doing all of the things that I'm not good at. I want to do what I'm good at. So a few weeks ago, I brought on a real employee, and she's doing like an excellent job, leaving me room to work on the things and the goals that I set forth. But figuring out, what to offload and what to take on, and then what to do with that free space can be tricky. And so we were talking about that, and not letting things take over or get you down is the sweet spot, right? Operating in a place of abundance rather than lack. And if you're not familiar with like these words or concepts, that can sound kind of confusing. But when I say we're operating with the thought of abundance, is that it's not necessarily like more is better. It's meaning that we're we're giving more, and instead of like looking at the lack, say the lack of time or the lack of employees or the lack of money or anything like that, we're talking about those positive things in our business. Well, I'm able to share my message, right? And maybe financially, we could be, maybe financially we're not where we want to be yet, but it doesn't mean that I won't be in a few weeks. Or, what do we need to tweak to make that better, rather than folding? And so obviously, if you're an entrepreneur, I think you have this it's almost like godlike drive. And I I've never felt so good in my life. And again, like I said, building this lifestyle and media company, there are so many elements to it and I have so many plans. And then all of a sudden I've been grinding and grinding and grinding and discussing these things with Kayla. I was like, oh my God, I've crossed all of these things off my list. I'm not here. I'm like all the way down here. I have, and then you're going to take this and then that leaves me room to go down here on this list of activities. And it's kind of crazy. And the fact that I can give her this chunk of things to do that leaves me room and space to keep focusing on more of what I want to do is just a fucking beautiful thing. And I'm so excited about it. And, the thing is that I was listening to a podcast earlier today about entrepreneurship and marketing and things like that. And everyone says there are going to be those dark days. There are going to be those hard days. And in fact, a friend called me this morning and I did have a brief moment. He said, things are changing. I know it's for the better, but it's overwhelming. And, fuck, I'm still a single mom with 3 kids and a giant mortgage and an office and all of these things that I'm trying to accomplish. My list is like never ending, as is yours, I'm sure. But I can either whine about it or I can fucking do something about it. And that's what the action is about. So I launched my coaching business last September and it is now July. So it hasn't even been a year yet. And I've published 2 journals and I've launched my coaching business. We're coming in on a year celebration. I've launched a few different online group coaching. I am a coach. I am a business consultant. I'm building my business. I've grown my Facebook audience to nearly 6,000 in just this amount of time. And we're going to reach 100,000 views on YouTube this week. So holy fuck, we accomplished a lot. I accomplished a lot. Being a solopreneur, you're at the helm and it's all up to you. But I am so grateful to have someone great on my team that's doing great work and that's helping drive the message and that believes in me and that carries the same positive vibe and mindset. So we will always have those dark days. I'm right there with you, but cry it out in the shower if you need to, regroup, and let's fucking go. So I'm really glad that I was able to get this message out today and hopefully it helped. And I have so much more to share. And I have some great guests that I will be hosting in the coming weeks and we'll continue that. And I look forward to navigating this change with you. So make sure you check out the blog at myinnerstruggle.com. Follow the Facebook page for My Inner Struggle on Instagram, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you're listening, and like it if you're enjoying the content, and please share it with a friend because that really, really helps. And there is someone out there that needs it and will benefit just as much as you are. I will see you soon.